What is going on, y'all? Gamers Goon here today with your NBA mock draft video. Now, we do have a little bit more of an idea because the combine has ended, so I figured I'd get another video out for you. And obviously, there's been a lot of movement with players. For example, we're going to go Cedric Coward. As you see, this big board rates him real low. But Cedric Coward is a guy that was thought probably a second-round pick. Then we thought maybe he'd go lotto at one point. And now the hype with him maybe going that high has died back down. And he'll probably still be a first-round pick. But I mean, we do have a little bit more knowledge here of maybe ranges to expect guys to go in. So we are going to do another mock draft video, and we'll probably do many more of these heading into the draft. Now, while you don't have a complete answer on Kyrie, because Kyrie will not play next season, you'd hope maybe to get him back for a playoff run next year. You need a point guard. You don't get that there. You get Cooper Flagg. I know Dylan Harper's there, but you get Cooper Flagg. That is the guy that should be the number one overall pick. There's no hesitation there from me doing that. And just like I did with Cooper Flagg, there's zero hesitation to me here that Dylan Harper is the second best player in this class, and the Spurs should do that. We're not going to have a very eventful first couple picks because it's a little chalky. I'm not going to lie, it's a little chalky. Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, and then Stephon Castle being the backcourt of the future with Victor Wembanyama. They will be a very good team for some time until they have to start re-signing guys. But very solid pickup there for the Spurs, two-way ability from Dylan Harper. And then this is where we're going to have our first non-consensus pick. The consensus ones I didn't really need to explain too much. They're pretty much self-explanatory. Here we're going to look here at the situation they put themselves in here with the 76ers. Outside of Tyrese Maxey, nobody here is impressive. You did have a good year out of McCain until he got hurt, so maybe you're not really looking for a guard as much. Quentin Grimes, he's a solid player. Nobody here really outside of those two would be guys I would look for long term. Paul George, it seems like they're probably going to try to get rid of him. Kelly Oubre, he's a solid player. Big men backup you could probably use. So Ace Bailey is definitely an option here at number 3 for them. However, to me, I think Ace Bailey's game does not really jive too well with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Ace Bailey is going to want to get kind of a king share of the shots. He's going to want 10 shots a game almost, maybe even more than that, because Ace Bailey is that gifted of a scorer. Kind of already made it known at the combine. Asked, sometimes you take bad shots. He's like, for others, those are bad shots. I practice those shots. I'm used to taking them. I'm going to take them. Yes, I think Ace Bailey is a good player, and yes, I think if the Bulls were picking up this high, he'd be my guy. But I don't think when you have a team like the 76ers that is ready to be a playoff team and should have been a playoff team if it wasn't for Embiid's injury, I think you're banking off defensive upside. I think you're banking off another guard of the future here that can get it done offensively, super athletic, but plays two ways. Really, his calling card's going to be on defense alongside Tyrese Maxey. You won't have to worry about Tyrese Maxey putting the team on his back when Embiid goes down, if he does. And that's VJ Edgecombe, a little bit of a do-it-all kind of guard there out of Baylor. Very, very high on him and what he can bring to a team like the 76ers, who is ready to compete now. Now, if you're the 4th pick and you are the Hornets, you probably wanted a guy like VJ Edgecombe to fall here because you do kind of lack some defense. But LaMelo Ball is your really only guy that's taken the load of shots, right? Miles Bridges, he's all right? You could probably find an upgrade. He's getting up there in age. He's not super old, but he's approaching. He's been in the league for some time now. Brandon Miller, had a top pick on him not too long ago. You figured you'd still he'd still be around, but he hasn't really became that an elite scorer by any means. So you're still really looking for an elite scorer on this team because LaMelo Ball, you can't bank on him being healthy for a full season, and he's not always consistently going to be an elite scorer either because he does so much. He'll play make, he does a lot other than just score. Ace Bailey here would be my pick. I would undoubtedly be taking Ace Bailey here. You need a guy that can go get you 15, 20 in a game, and that could be Ace Bailey. I think there will be some low lows for him because he does put himself in situations where he's taking difficult and hard shots, and he's going to want the ball in his hands late in games and situations like that. But I also think the high highs are really, really going to even it all out. You're getting a really good player here. There is a lot to like about Ace Bailey, length-wise, shot-wise, really good offensive game for where he's at as a 19-year-old player entering the league. I think he is a guy that in the future could develop into being a primary scoring option for this team, specifically in the Hornets. So Ace Bailey is the guy here. We get to the Jazz, and this is kind of where where all crap hits the fan, right? Like, nobody really knows after this. The first four are going to be the first four. Maybe the order switches a little, but the first four are going to be the first four. This is really where you're going to have to kind of read in between the lines and figure out what do teams need. Center, probably not a need, right? You're looking at Kessler, you're looking at Filipowski. Big man, power forward. We've heard some Collins rumors. We've heard some Markkanen rumors about potential trades. Do you buy him? I don't know. Small forward could be in play, not a very strong position. Shooting guard could be in play, not a very strong position. You got a guy like Cody Williams who's good defensively. But really, when I look at this team, it is a young team, but outside of kind of Larry Markkanen, John Collins, and then maybe Keontae George, this team doesn't really have a true scorer. And while I have seen some people go Jeremiah Fears here, where I have seen some people maybe go Kasper Shakashonis, getting a different kind of guard there, and I think that might be a good option because maybe Keontae George would be better as a shooting guard, and maybe you need a real true playmaker at that point guard position. I like Isaiah Collier as well, but probably not a starting point guard at this point. You might be able to talk me into a point guard, But when I look at a team like this that is struggling to kind of find their guy of the future, and it looks like it might be Keontae George, I want to at least add somebody there that has some two-way potential, but also will have the ability to be, if Keontae George does not become like the franchise centerpiece, can become that franchise centerpiece here with the 5th overall pick. And to me, that is Trey Johnson. I'm not as high defensively on him as some people. Some people think the wingspan, the height, he's going to turn out to be an above-average NBA defender. He was not a great defender at Texas, but he does have the tools to get there. He was a great scorer at Texas, though, and that is what I'm drafting him for at this point. But there is a lot of defensive tools you can tap into if you are the Jazz, and I think that would push him up the board a little bit over somebody like Jeremiah Fears, where he's a little bit more undersized than Trey Johnson. So Trey Johnson is the selection there. Next, we get to the Wizards. The Wizards are another team kind of difficult to pick for. And really, when I look at this team, I'm looking at probably a point guard. Brogdon, Smart, nobody I'm long-term attached to there. Bub Carrington had a solid rookie year, but do you refuse to draft an upgrade here? Probably not. You could also move potentially Bub Carrington to the shooting guard because you figure maybe they'd try to trade Jordan Poole if they can get something out of him. Kaishan George is a nice young piece. Bilal Coulibaly, somebody I like. Corey Kispert's solid. Alexander Sarr, obviously spent a top pick on him last year. I'm not going to give up on him this soon. I didn't think he was as great as where he was drafted. I think he was the number one. He was either 1 or 2. I think he was number 1. No, he was number 2. He was number 2. He was number 2 because Ricochet was number 1. Either way, he didn't have as good of a year as you might have expected for that, but a good interior defender, a guy that will stretch the floor a little bit. Tristan Vukovic, he's somebody that my boy Alex, who is a Wizards fan, is very high on. So, I mean, this team kind of, in a lot of senses, has a similar problem to the other teams I've been talking about, right? Where you're kind of lacking that true centerpiece. It might be Jordan Poole, maybe it could be Alex Sarr if he develops. And I think really here you're probably looking for somebody that can play alongside Alex Sarr. I'm not committed to Jordan Poole long term, but I am to Alex Sarr. I'm going to try to make him the future of this team. And that means I want somebody that can get him lobs, that can get him pick and rolls, pick and pops. And I saw somebody at Illinois last year do that very well with Tomislav Ivasic. Really, really succeeded very well in that pick and roll game. Read it like a book every single time. You're going to give up some defensively by going this route. Kasparas Shakashonis is not the most well-rounded defender. He'll get some steals. He'll get in passing lanes. He's not gonna be a lockdown defender at the NBA level. He will be a good playmaker at the NBA level, and I think he'll be a decent shooter at the NBA level. Shot the three ball at a decent rate. At times takes bad threes, but you're on a team here with Jordan Poole that already somewhat does that. If you move on from Jordan Poole, trade him, get whatever assets you can. Kasparas Shakashonis and Alexander Sarr does sound like a much better future in my opinion, because you are pairing him with a primary playmaker there in Kasparas Shakashonis. Then we get to the Pelicans. Also, I'm going to show a little bit of Illinois bias, just if you haven't already told. I might push them up maybe 2 or 3 picks sooner than what they might actually go, because I really love my Illinois boys. So then we get to the Pelicans. The Pelicans, they're another interesting one, right? Not a particularly great board here for them. I think maybe Kasparas Shakashonis would have been their guy. Because you look at this, DeJounte Murray can't really stay healthy. Always a trade candidate on every team, it feels like. Everywhere he's been somebody that's been rumored to be in trades. Jordan Hawkins, a guy they drafted not too long ago, I really like. CJ McCollum getting up there in age. Jose Alvarado. Really, basically what I'm saying is there's nobody here long-term outside of maybe Jordan Hawkins and DeJounte Murray that are going to be in this guard group for more than 2 or 3 seasons, right? So you do have Trey Murphy, you have Herb Jones, you have Zion, who might be a trade candidate. You drafted Missy last year in the draft. While I can see the argument for maybe Kaman Malawach here, if you aren't sold completely on Missy, you get a golden opportunity here to draft a point guard of the future. Now, it's really dependent on your preference. I really like Jeremiah Fears, but I think a lot of teams are really going to fall in love with Yegor Dimon simply because he is the 6'9", kind of do-it-all kind of guard out of BYU. Now, I think you're getting a less physical player than Jeremiah Fears. Jeremiah Fears will go to the hoop and draw contact, and he don't back down. Like at Oklahoma, he was the guy, came in a year early, reclassified, and really took off and kind of led that team. Yegor Dimon at times played himself off the court at BYU, but the upside is really good, and the upside, when he was at his best, has really shined here throughout his collegiate career. He once again was one of these European prospects that came and did play to the college game, and it did take a little bit of time for him to get used to it, but he loads the stat sheet. A lot of people are saying, like, because my Bulls are interested in him, a lot of people are saying he's similar to Josh Giddey. I think that would be a good pickup here, and you get a guy to throw some lobs up to Zion Williamson, which ultimately Zion Williamson at this point is your biggest asset. So until you trade Zion, we're planning to work this team around Zion with Yegor Dimon. And you see there, those are pretty well-rounded stats for a college player, about 10 points, 5, almost 6 assists a game. And here we go to the Nets. The Nets, they should be thanking whoever allowed this to happen. So they should be thanking me. Con Knippel is their guy. I can understand the Jeremiah Fears here. Point guard, not a great group. Cam Thomas, obviously, dominant player there for them. he's going to be the primary scorer. He's going to want the ball in his hands. So I don't think Jeremiah Fears would necessarily be the best player with him, whereas you have that extra pick here. I kind of do like waiting and maybe getting a LeBaron Philon, or maybe even getting somebody like a Neat Clifford or a Ben Seraph or Will Riley that maybe can run guard alongside Cam. The wings, though, I don't really love the wings really too deep with that 19th pick. Neat Clifford, I'm probably drafting to be a guard, to be honest with you, more so a shooting guard. Carter Bryant, somebody I'm just not super high on. He might it'd still be a lottery pick, but it seems like people have started maybe died down on his hype train a little bit. Lee McNeely, I like the player, but I just don't really love him on this team specifically. When I look at this team, I think the guard options are a lot better than the options you're going to get later. So I'm going to draft my wing now and maybe address guard later, and we do have a couple picks to throw some darts there. We're going to go Con Knipple. Con Knipple, get a 3-and-D wing. I do know they have a lot of wings right now in Brooklyn, but none of them really look like they are going to stick. A lot of them are movable pieces, might be able to even trade for a guard future. But this is the best 3-and-D player in the draft, Con Knipple. Then we get to the Raptors. The Raptors, it comes down to me for the Raptors. Do they want the defense of Kaman Malawach, or they want the defense of Colin Murray-Boyles? And I think here they went the Chomchi route last time, which is the more undersized big man approach. You have Scotty Barnes, you have Boucher, you have Mogbo. Mogbo also kind of an undersized big man. Jakob Poeltl, Colin Castleton, nobody there long-term makes much sense to me. I'm going Kaman Malawach. I'm going Kaman Malawach because he will run the center for me. He will have some time to sit maybe behind Jakob Poeltl, but he is going to be my interior defender of the future. We didn't talk about Derek Queen mostly because I don't know if that would be the best player to put alongside Scotty Barnes, and it seems like he might be sliding as well. Murray-Boyles, love the player. His ranges are all over the board, by the way. I love the player in Murray-Boyles, but I don't know if really you need another undersized big man, because they do have kind of a plethora of them at the moment. Oh, wait, actually, I can look here. How tall is Chomchi? Yeah, 6'10", power forward, can't really run that center. Malawach will be able to run that center for us, so Kaman Malawach is the guy there. Very disappointed that he is off the board. I'm not disappointed because I don't like a player. I'm disappointed because I want the Bulls to draft him, if that wasn't made clear. The Rockets. The Rockets, man. I think the Rockets are one of these teams that is in an interesting position. Because you look at Van Vliet, you figure they'd probably bring him back. Reed Shepherd, their pick not too long ago. But I would start thinking about maybe life after Van Vliet, Jalen Green's future. Don't know if he'll be there long term. Amon Thompson will be. A lot of good wings. The big men are good. You might trade Şengün, it sounds like, but I'm going to work off the assumption that you don't. Here, I'm thinking about not next year. I'm thinking about a year down the line. I'm thinking about what is a life after Fred Van Vliet. Yes, I know I have Reed Shepherd. I don't care that I have Reed Shepherd because Reed Shepherd can come off the bench still. I'm drafting Jeremiah Fears, best player available in this situation. I don't know if my boy Cam would like that in this specific spot. Not a huge pressing need at the point guard position, but kind of thinking a year or two down the line and what life after Fred Van Vliet will look like, and maybe Reed Shepherd there at the 2 behind Jalen Green, or if you move on from Jalen Green, you can have a Fears-Shepherd duo there. So Fears is my pick for now. We get to the Portland Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers, interesting spot here for them. I don't think you've really seen enough out of Scoot Henderson to not go point guard now. Simon's always a trade candidate. Shaden Sharp they really like. Deni Avdija, huge breakout year this year. Chamani Kamara, really good defensive player, really broke out this year. Klingon, I'm not drafting a center, even if you do trade one of Rob Williams, DeAndre, and Klingon's the guy. Klingon's the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy. Can't say it loud enough. So here kind of gets interesting, and this might be where we kind of throw a dart here, and maybe go for a little bit of a prediction rather than what's gonna happen. And I think we might dip maybe into, because Murray-Boyles would be a good pickup, right? But does he fit this team? Does Murray-Boyles fit this? They do have a lot of defense. Do I maybe want to go guard and Jace Richardson's there, and then figure out what to do with Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons later? Is there a shooting guard still available? Neat Clifford, probably not the spot for him. Ben Seraph, probably a little bit too early. Will Riley, a guy that might be sliding up some boards the way he performed at the Combine. I think Jace Richardson, though. I think Jace Richardson here makes some sense. I know my Blazers friends will not be super excited about this because they kind of want that power forward spot. Realistically, I don't think they're going big. I think you probably start thinking about, what if the Scoot idea if it hasn't really worked, he's been coming off the bench. Maybe we do need to look for another guard, and Jace Richardson is going to bring that to this team, and I really do like him there because that does, it kind of feels like they're always scared to trade Anthony Simons. That does give you, hey, Anthony Simons, you need to get off the team. We need to trade you while we can get something out of you. We're not going to let it just lose value, and 3 or 4 years down the line when you're only worth maybe a late first-round pick, trade you. No, try to get something for Anthony Simons while you can. Could you get multiple firsts? Probably not. It's Anthony Simons. But I think you could get a decent, maybe a top 10 protected first-round pick out of him, and then maybe you're sitting late lotto, or maybe you can get a middle first-round pick out of him. Maybe you could get another player out of Anthony Simons. I'm not sure, but Anthony Simons, somebody I would expect to gain some interest if he becomes available. The Bulls, this is sort of a dream scenario for the Bulls with Derek Queen and CMB being available. Carter Bryant's the one I'm really worried about and confused about where his range really is. Ace Anul, a guy I really like. Danny Wolf, another guy I'm really, really high on for the Bulls, simply because I really like the passing that he brings. There's some rumors that maybe point guard's in play. The guards that we were talking about, though, kind of off the board, because it was Kasper Shakashonis, it was Yegor Demon, not on the board. Do they still want to go that route? I don't know. Power forward, a position in need. Murray-Boyles, kind of undersized. Some Bulls fans love him. Some Bulls fans hate him. I'm on the love him side. I really like the defense he can bring. But ultimately, I don't feel convinced that a team with Billy Donovan will go the route of getting a Murray-Boyles who, yes, they do want to add some defense, it sounds like. But I don't think that he's going to want to get draft a guy that doesn't stretch the floor, whereas Derek Queen does stretch the floor. Derek Queen, kind of a gift here at 12. It sounded like he was probably a top 5 pick at one point, and then Combine season happened. He's sliding down boards, thinks maybe he'll go late lotto. Derek Queen, you're gifted a gift, kind of like you were with Buzelis. Buzelis probably shouldn't have been there at 11, but he was. You took advantage of it. Do the same thing here. Take whoever is the best player available if you are Chicago. And this is Derek Queen. It's my best available in this situation with how the board is played out. The Hawks. Really good defensively from Dyson Daniels. Onyeka Okongwu, a good defender. Power forward, nothing I'm attached to long term. Ricochet, drafted him real early last year. Jalen Johnson, obviously, a big piece to that team. You don't really need a guard. I need defense. CMB brings the defense. Dream scenario that he's here. CMB to the Hawks would be an absolute dream. Having him and Dyson Daniels on the same team, I would hate to play against them when they're both on the court. That would be a nightmare. You ain't scoring. They're going to either steal, block, or you just aren't going to get a good shot of. Those two are going to be an elite duo defensively if that were the case. team like the Spurs might be mad about that too, by the way, because seeing him be on this team would also look really, really good alongside Victor Wembanyama, but he's not there. He's not going to be there. I'm thinking probably go power forward here. Probably go power forward. I have a lot of wings. Keldon Johnson's solid. Champagne is okay. Vassell can play some wing. Blake Wesley, you drafted not too long ago. You have a lot of guards now. You have Fox. You have Castle. Obviously, now you have Harper. So wing is the move. Is that a Carter Bryant? Maybe it's a little too early for a Carter Bryant. Maybe it's a Neat Clifford. Neat Clifford kind of fits that role of being a guy ready to compete if this team truly is. But I'm really looking down there at Noah Sengue, and I just love the fit here, to be honest with you. You can play 3, you can play 4, has a little bit of time, fits the timeline a little bit more maybe than a senior in coming out of college in Neat Clifford. Noah Sengue, I think that might be the pick here. I am looking a little bit at a Hugo Gonzalez as well, but Noah Sengue here, I just think the value is a little bit too much to pass up on. You went your safe pick, now you're going off a guy that could end up becoming that power forward, small forward, maybe with dual flexibility between the two of the future alongside Victor Wembanyama. So there's our pick there with Noah Sengue. This is the Thunder. The Thunder should be hyped. Neat Clifford on the board. Could not have fell. A better board could not have fell for him. Nikola Topic will be there next year. Won't be hurt. Caruso, obviously. Shea. This team's really, really good. J-Dub. You probably do lose some Jalen Williams, the backup. Big there. Chet, you're obviously going to bring Chet back. Kason Wallace, you'd figure he'd probably be back. So really, you're just looking at depth pieces here with this team. I think really you have your scores. You're looking for defense. Neat Clifford, while he is ready right now, I don't know defensively if that's really where his calling card would be. Carter Bryant, a lot of two-way potential there as well. I think Carter Bryant's going to be the pick. Carter Bryant slides just out of Lotto. He was maybe going to be Lotto at one point. We have him sliding just out of it. Has some two-way ability there, and that is going to be our selection for the Thunder. We get to the Magic. The Magic, a team that always seems to be in trade rumors for guards. Cole Anthony, somebody that doesn't sound like too attached to. Anthony Black hasn't really been as great as you'd hope. Jalen Suggs, somebody I really, really like. Guards, though, outside of those three, not much. Small forwards, a decent group. Paolo Banchero, obviously the franchise center. You might need another big, maybe if you want to move on from Wendell, who's good but not great. To me, though, you're probably looking at a guard here. Neat Clifford would not be my pick. It could be a LeBaron Philon. Or maybe even a Ben Serif. And I think maybe Ben Serif makes a little bit more sense here because you do have the potential to run Jalen Suggs at the 1, and then you have Ben Serif kind of as a bigger 2, and then Franz, Paolo, Wendell kind of add some positional size there with Ben Serif, who I think could be a good playmaker at the next level, and I think it will probably take him a year or two to really get into his groove in the NBA. But Ben Serif, I think, would be a little bit better of a pick than Neat Clifford for this team. Neat Clifford, I just don't think he'll go to a team where they're still trying to figure something out. Obviously, the Magic have came a long way, but they're not there yet. I do think that a Neat Clifford is probably better fit for a team like this in the Timberwolves, but I don't think the Timberwolves are the team for it because Naz Reid, his contract's coming up. I don't know if they'll re-sign him. I figure they'll try. Not sure if they'll be able to afford it. Nickeil Alexander, his contract is coming up. But you do have Rob, you do have Dante, you have TSJ, who's looked pretty solid in the playoffs. Let's see, you have Ant-Man, Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels. I'm probably adding a big here just out of kind of fear of Naz Reid leaving, and kind of also out of necessity. And this maybe it's a little early for a Janai Broom, ain't it? Probably a little bit too early for Janai Broom. I'm looking for a defensive player. Asen Newell's name is kind of sticking out. Joan Beringer, his name, I think it might be Beringer here. I'm going to go Joan Beringer here. A guy that some people have in the lottery, some people have in the second round, kind of a wild card here in the draft, but we're going to hear his name called here to them. I don't know if Danny Wolf is really the defensive guy. Maybe Thomas Sorber. But you know what? We passed on Thomas Sorber. Speaking about teams that passed on Thomas Sorber, right? Like they would take Thomas Sorber, right? The power forwards are not great. Yeah, I would take Thomas Sorber and probably expect to play him at a 2 or at the 4, alongside Alexander Sarr. Yes, there's an Asa Newell available, but why not get 2 pick and pop options with Kasper Shakachonis? We're going the Thomas Sorber route, and we're going to run him at power forward, rather than maybe going Asa Newell route. Rasheer Fleming, some teams allegedly kind of worried about his age being up there, which kind of why Neat Clifford's still around here at this point as well. Let me get to the Nets. The Nets, ironically enough, if they would have waited for a shooting guard, small forward, wing kind, Neat Clifford would not have been a bad pick, but this is probably Nolan Traore. Tyrese Proctor, somebody that could sneakily slide into the late first round. Big jumbo guard out of Duke. I really like, a little bit up there, and he is a junior. He'll be a little bit older. Todd Pettiford, a guy that might slide up some boards. Really had a good combine. Really small though. Really, really good basketball player though. LeBaron Philon, somebody I really like. You know what? I kind of really would rather have LeBaron Philon. I'm gonna go with LeBaron Philon. I liked how he played when I did get a chance to watch Alabama last year. He was difficult to stop. I think he was a dual sport athlete in high school as well. But you can tell he goes to the rim and towards the bucket with some aggression. I think he was a football player in high school, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments. And a player like LeBaron Philon probably could have been a pick here for the Heat. The guards are going off the board. They are going off the board pretty quick. And this is a team that's probably in need of a point guard. Tyler Hero, great. You have him. Davion Mitchell, solid, but you probably don't want him to be your calling card point guard in terms of playmaking. Good defender, though. Jovic, hopefully he comes around. Great duo there between Bam and Khalil Ware. Hamehaka, wing gauntlet right here. Wing roulette. Just pick your poison. All of them have had good moments in the past and probably will next season if called upon. I'm really looking though for a point guard. Todd Pettiford's the one that just kind of throws me off because the talent is there, the size is not. He's the one that throws me off. I think we're going to go the safe bet and go Nolan Traore, but Todd Pettiford is the one throwing me off here. We're going to go to Nolan Traore. They will go point guard, I would assume. But could be Pettiford. The Jazz. I think the Jazz here, they went Trey Johnson, who's kind of going to run that too. I think now your next bet would be to look for somebody that can run that 3 for us. Obviously, you still have Cody Williams around, but you're probably not thinking Cody Williams is going to be your guy forever. I'm going to go get Cedric Coward, a guy that's probably slid down some boards. He was really high for a minute, then kind of came back down to earth, and it'll look like he'll probably go middle first round. A team like the Jazz can bank off the upside of a guy like Cedric Coward, who some people think can be great, some people don't see it. He is coming in older as a senior, obviously out of Washington State, but kind of a mixed bag there on who you ask on what they think Cedric Coward can become. The Jazz get one of those kind of wild cards of the draft here in Cedric Coward and go Trey Johnson, Cedric Coward. Pretty good draft so far, if you ask me. We had CMB going to the Hawks. Sorber could have been an option, but CMB fell to us. So, you know what? while there was some maybe big man concerns long term, because Clint Capella you probably want to try to get rid of. Onyeka Okongwu, somebody that I like, but you probably need another option there. A guy like Danny Wolf, this team really could turn it around and become a playoff team next year. Defensively with CMB, obviously Dyson Daniels. Now you add Danny Wolf, a playmaker at the big man position, can get the ball to Trae Young, can get a cutting Zachary Ricochet, can kick it out to Jalen Johnson. I really like Danny Wolf as a player and what he can bring to a team. You kind of go a little bit of both sides here. You got the defense of CMB, and now you go the offense of Danny Wolf. And when you talk about offense with Danny Wolf, I don't think he'll be like a 20-point per game scorer or anything crazy. Might not even be 10 points per game. But I think playmaking-wise, he can maybe get you 3 or 4 assists a game. And that's really something out of the center position that can be valuable based off of the team that you're on. So, Danny Wolf, I would really like there. A guy that I would kind of want for the Bulls, but I think 12 is probably a little bit too early. Maxime Reynaud's another one that's probably going to slide up some boards. Talk about a team right now in the Pacers, man. Miles Turner, I don't know long-term if he'll be there. Contract's coming up. They're going to have to pay some guys. Will they pay him? Benedict Mathurin, another guy you might have to replace. I think these guys can all be team options, though. Miles Turner is not. Ben Shepherd. So right now, I'm gonna try to think about life after Miles Turner. We have Asa Newell here. I know he doesn't want to play center at the NBA level, but I'm not drafting Asa Newell off of what Asa Newell wants. I'm drafting Asa Newell because I think he's a good player. I think he's a really good player. Lob threat, obviously, a good shooter. I think defensively he will be his calling card early on in his career. Asa Newell, though, I'm sorry, you're probably going to have to play center for them. But, I mean, I guess just be grateful that you're in the NBA, I guess. I don't know. It'll really depend on if he shows any willingness to actually run center, but it sounds like he'll probably just want to play power forward in the NBA. But the Pacers, a team, competitive, are you willing to maybe say, you know what, I will play center to be a part of a team that's been in the conference finals the last 2 years? I would. Carter Bryant was the pick here for the Thunder. We thought maybe Nick Clifford. Just the big men, the long-term big men really scare me on this team because you're going to have to start paying some people, right? You're going to have to start paying some people, and I don't know who that will be. And I really like Rasheer Fleming's game. I know some boards have him sliding even further than what I'm having, but I just like Rasheer Fleming too much to have him slide much more. They kind of get 2 steals in Carter Bryant and Rasheer Fleming. So you have Carter Bryant who will run that 3, maybe even some 4. Rasheer Fleming will definitely run the 4 and maybe some 5, but really adding some size that you don't have to really worry about that 3 and 4 position long term, at least for another year or two. Gives you a little bit more time to maybe plan on getting some guys that could fill those roles that once you start at the paying people, that Thunder team can easily implode real quick. Ben Serif was our pick there. Do we double up on guards? Do we double up on guards and go the Todd Pettiford route? Do we go Hugo Gonzalez? I'm a big Hugo Gonzalez guy. I really like what he could potentially bring to a team. I think we're going to go Hugo. I think we're going to go Hugo here. Kind of in the same realm as a Ben Serif. A little bit younger, I believe, as well. But you know what? You get an opportunity to draft both. Why not? So we went LeBaron Fallon, Con Knipple. Day'Ron Sharp, potentially a guy that will be out of the way here in not too long. Nick Claxton there. Center, this might be where Maxime Reynaud comes off. Offensively, you look at this guy. I don't know how he wasn't a lock for first round. Defensively, he gives up a little bit on the older side. kind of started to rise up some boards lately. Maxime Reynaud is my pick here at 26. A little bit more tame of a Maxime Reynaud first round. I've seen him go a little higher than that, but a little bit more tame. And then the Nets, with their last pick in the first round, do you really go the high upside of somebody like Will Riley? You have your Kneppel. You have your good floor wing. You have your really good point guard. You have a high, I would assume, a pretty high floor, big man offensive. Now I'm kind of looking at, maybe I'm going to throw my dart here. I'm going to go the high upside of Will Riley. Big time shot maker. We've seen them already go after players like this in their NBA careers. I'm specifically referring to Kevin Durant, not to say Will Riley will be Kevin Durant, but he does take a lot of similar shots. He is a guy that does not shy away from the big shot. He wants the ball in his hands in big moments, and for the most part, he would deliver in big moments at Illinois. We'll probably have to put on some muscle at the NBA level, so he is a little bit more of a project. I know some people have him going higher and probably in the top 20. I'm a little bit more tame on it. I'm not gonna force it just to force it. I think this is probably a better range for Will Riley here. See some of the guys that Todd Pettiford, Yaxel, Drake Powell, a name that might slide up some boards to some people. Carter Knox just went back to college, by the way. He's gonna be at Illinois next year. He is at Illinois. Yeah, so a couple guys here that will make it into the second round. And I really want to take Walter Clayton here for the Celtics. But you have Pritchard, you have Drew Holiday, you do have Derek White around. Jason Tatum's hurt, Jaylen Brown will run the 2. I need a wing for next season if we're going to compete. We have Porzingis, we have Cornette, we have Horford. Our big men aren't great, but they're good. I need a wing. I need somebody that can play now. Yaxel, another interesting pick, but I probably need a small forward here. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to need a guy that can maybe run a little bit of small forward, power forward. And this is kind of where things start to get a little bad, and maybe I go off the script a little bit here, because Alex Karaban's looking at me as a guy. Also, the name, can I find him? Where's Noah? Noah Penda. Looking me at a guy here, potentially as another option. A guy that's rose up some boards. And I think I might be leaning the Noah Penda route. Maybe I'm just listening too much into the hype on some of these prospects, that I'm forgetting that, like, Neat Clifford is still on the board. But Noah Penda, a guy here that has generated some buzz lately. You know, we always see some of these older players, like an Ayo Dosunmu, or, Peyton Pritchard went late first round, or, there's a lot of guys, right, that just end up sliding a little bit because they're a little bit older. But you know what? You get a good player. That's why these teams at the back end usually have multiple years of good success, because teams will pass on a Walter Clayton. Teams will pass on a Johnny Broome. They just pass on guys simply because they have other interest at that time, looking for guys that might be able to develop into something a little bit more. We're looking for a point guard, and I see one right here. Todd Pettiford's still the kind of the wild card here to me, but Walter Clayton, just a guy I cannot let not get drafted in the first round. Too good of a player. If you watch that championship run for him, he was the guy. Now, he did struggle a little bit in the Natty, but I believe in Walter Clayton. He will be a good pro. He'll be a really, really good pro. Then we get to the Clippers. The Clippers, Liam McNeely's there is interesting. Yaxel's still there. You have Kawhi. Your big men aren't great. Your guards aren't great. You do have Harden. You have Powell. You have Derek Jones, who can run some 3. They'll run him at 4, though, because that's just what they do. I want to find a reason to put Yaxel in the first round. This team needs a point guard. They need a point guard. Because Harden, how much longer does he have left? Do you trust Chris Dunn, Patty Mills, Ben Simmons long term? Probably not. Not to say it's a long term, but if you're banking purely off upside and purely off of I'm getting a good basketball player right now that has some potential to maybe become a little bit more in the NBA, and in some people's cases, if he was a little bit bigger, could have probably been a lottery guy. I'm going to Hod Pettiford. I found a way to get him in the first round. I couldn't get his teammate in the first round, but I found a way to get Todd Pettiford in the first round. So there we have it. Let me know down below where you see some of these guys going. I mean, Pettiford could fall into like the 40s in terms of where he gets drafted, or he could be pretty high. I don't know. I mean, this draft has been really confusing in terms of like where to truly expect people after the first couple picks. I mean, we look at somebody like Derek Queen. Derek Queen could go as early as 5, or it looks like he might even slide down to maybe 15, 16 in that range. There's no real consensus on any of these players because I think this is a really strong draft class. I mean, just looking over here, like Darian Williams, somebody I wouldn't mind taking a shot on in the second round because I do like how he plays. He is a big-time shot maker there at Texas Tech. I like Cam Jones. Got to see him at Marquette. Nick Clifford, obviously, he's ranked 13th on this for a reason because he was really dominant with that Colorado State team and helped carry them to the point in which they were. Janai Broom, Ryan Kalkbrenner, a lot of good talents that are going to go in that second round range. Joel Behringer, not a lock for first round, but some people have him in that lottery range. So he's another one that's really, really confusing on where he might go. You see Yegor Demon, kind of teams like the Bulls think he might go a little bit higher. Then you got other teams that might hope that he probably falls into like this 16 to 20 range. We've seen Con Knueppel go high, maybe like to the Jazz, and we've seen him also go maybe as low here. Will Riley we've seen up in the lotto. We've seen Hugo Gonzalez up here. We've seen Rasheer Fleming really up here, like around the Bulls pick, maybe even the Blazers pick, but it seems like teams might be falling away from him. Asa Newell, another one that kind of is in just this range of picks. Just a lot of players that just have no real range in terms of where to expect them. So it's kind of just throwing a dart. After you get after Kaman Malowach, like, I feel confident that this whole front row is out in the lottery. This whole front row should be in the lottery. CMB, not a lock. Derek Queen, not a lock. Jace Richardson, not a lock. Itsengwe, not a lock. Bryant, probably going in the top 20. We'll see. Ben Seraph, probably going in the top 25. We'll see. Behringer, kind of a question mark. Sorber could go higher, could go lower. I don't really know. Phylon could probably go lower than this. I don't see him going much higher than that. Traore, kind of a question mark here. Does he maybe go above LeBaron Phylon? I don't know. There's just a lot of unexpected with this class. Danny Wolf, a guy a lot of people like. Just a really hard class to read in terms of if you were front office making your draft plan. So if I'm the Bulls, I'm going BPA. I'm going BPA because I'm not trying to outsmart the system and try to think, well, who can Cedric Howard become this? Not to throw anything at Cedric Howard. I'm not in the business of that at the 12th pick. I'm at the business of we have to get a hit here. You have a very crucial offseason if you are Chicago where Josh Giddey needs to be re-signed, and I assume you will. And then you have Kobe White, who has one more year under contract before you have to re-sign him. Then you have Ayo Dosunmu, who I think has 2 years. Then you have to trade Vooch this offseason. You got to figure out what you're doing there at the center position. Very crucial. Do you force a draft pick here if Queen and Malowach aren't on the board? Do you force a Danny Wolf here? Do you force a center pick in Thomas Sorber here? I don't think you do. And I think a lot of teams here are in that same realm of you need to just make the pick that is the best pick for you. You're not trying to fit, I need a center, I need to draft a center here. You got to fit who you think is the best player. When I look at a Thunder, who do they think? I don't think the Thunder have a pressing need at any position. Who is their B pick? Who is their BPA? When you have a team like the Spurs who have really started to get things together, who is their BPA? When you have a team like the Nets, yeah, you do need some position fill-outs. That's just the morale of the story. But there are so many teams right now that are just on the brink. Like, you look at the Blazers. They're a team that could have been a playoff team, made a decent run. A team like the Raptors, you'd expect to probably be a playoff team. The Pelicans have the pieces to be a playoff team. The 76ers should be a playoff team. The Mavericks are a playoff team. The Hornets, probably not. They need to probably fill some spaces out. Same with the Jazz, same with the Wizards. But there's not too many teams in the league right now that need to get this certain position fixed. There's a lot of teams right now that just are one or two pieces away from getting it all to click. And they got to figure out what those pieces are. Is it replacing your starting point guard in the case of the Spurs, right? Yeah, not that they would replace Fox, but say maybe Fox, right? Maybe Harper is the answer there. I don't know. We will see. Thank you for watching. Let me know down below. I don't care if you really like this mock draft, to be honest, because it's kind of just spitballing. But let me know down below who you want your team to go with. I don't care if you're like, I'm a Spurs fan, but what are you doing with the Thunder pick? I'm just spitballing ideas. Don't look too much into it. Tell me who you want your team to. Now, if you're a Thunder fan and you're like, well, what are you doing with my Thunder picks? Then tell me that. But don't talk for other fan bases. Try not to do that, because like I've seen plenty of people be like, the Bulls would be a really good fit for well, I've seen, obviously, Carter Bryant, which I don't like, but the Bulls would be a good fit for a Walter Clayton. He won't be there for the Bulls pick. Stop talking about it. He's not making it to the second round, and you're not taking him at 12. Stop talking about Walter Clayton to the Bulls. Unless you trade back into the first round, we don't need to be talking about Walter Clayton. I like the player. I don't think there's a chance you get him. Reynaud, another guy. The Bulls are interested. You'd have to take him at 12. You either need to get a second first-round pick, and until that happens, stop talking about it, or you got to pray that he makes it to your next pick, and he ain't making it there. There's just so much going on now with all these teams. You don't just fit players onto teams. You got to look at where you're, like, when you do that, that's how you end up with a Dalen Terry or with a Patrick Williams. The Bulls get in love with them, then they force it a little bit too early. Not to say Dalen Terry can't become a good player. Patrick Williams, obviously the jury left the station a long time ago. People have already jumped off that train. Dalen Terry, I think, showed some signs last year. But you don't go for these guys that are 1 or 2 years away from being a year or two away. You don't force that when you don't need to. And I think in the past, teams like the Bulls have. In the past, there's been other teams, the Wizards have, or in the past, whomever, right? There's been teams that have forced a pick just based off what somebody can become. I don't know if you'll see that in this class. You look at Cedric Howard, a guy that could become a lot of things, right? A lot of people think really highly of him. I don't know that you're going to see teams really buy into that. At least, I don't think they will. So I think you're probably looking at a situation where a Derek Queen for the Bulls makes some sense. So there you have it. Let me know down below who you hope your teams draft. Don't come and tell me that I'm the Thunder hoping I draft Cooper Flagg, by the way. Tell me realistic options. Tell me people that you think will actually be on the board when you come to pick. And if you're a Nets fan, please comment, because I am struggling to figure out what the heck the Nets can possibly do in this draft, because I gave them a little bit of everything, and they probably still ain't happy because the Nets still don't have a star. I try to give them good players. Here's the problem about that. None of them are stars right now. You need a star. You needed a Cooper Flagg. You needed this. You needed that. Nets just... I'm sorry that you have to deal with what you have to deal with. I've seen the Bulls do similar things, but I've never seen us in a first round with 4 picks and still feels like we walked out with a team that is not nearly that competitive. So we'll see what happens in the draft, but thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.